I'm friends with Lord Aleem, so we went to London, and he goes, okay, we stopped at the service. He said, we're going to pick somebody up. And instead of picking somebody, he comes and drags me out on Porsche. He goes, you're driving the Bugatti and I'm driving the Porsche. I said,
have you drove the Bugatti?
I drove his Bugatti. I said, I'm not driving it. He goes, no, you're going to. I said, I am not driving the Bugatti.
Why?
It's a £3 million car. It's gone lockdown. All the retail giants gone into lockdown. I'm thinking I'm sitting on 750 grand worth of stock here, which I've got to pay for in 45 days. My dad's just passed away. I've got to get back in the office. I've got £750,000 worth of stock. I've now got to shift this stock because my suppliers are going to be paid in 45 days. Being the person that he was, we thought, he'll live to a long life. But, God had other plans. And to go in such a quick way, it took a real big effect on me because now the roof that I had over my head was gone. We were buying Dyson, we were selling them
through
and I shouldn't be giving this away, really, right? But the thing is, but I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of that. It's part of our success. And then you see, companies like Dyson don't want to supply people like Amazon and Groupon because they're known to slash the products and the prices, and they ruin the market. But it's okay, if they're not doing it, I'll do it.
Right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Minted Minds podcast, and I have another very special guest with me today. We're going to be talking about everything regarding business, mindset, and the journey it's taken to get where the guest has gotten to. So we've got
Amer Awan.
Amer Awan, yeah. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Another podcast, and we're just going to get straight into it, I think.
Sure.
So before we kind of get fully started, I just want to talk a little bit about all the business that you're involved in. Mm-hmm. So can you just discuss maybe a little bit about what business that you're involved in and what the day-to-days?
Sure. So the business that I have at the moment is, we have two businesses. My first business is a consumer electronics business,
okay,
where we supply high-end consumer electronics to retailers, to online retail giants, to many other places. As well as market traders, shopkeepers. And the other business that we have is a property real estate portfolio business, which a lot of us Asians did back in the day when the business was booming, and then we were putting a lot of profits into property investments. And that's what we did. So now I look after two of these businesses.
Okay. So from what I understand, I know this is like a family business. At what stage did you get involved officially? Okay, before officially...
I will tell you unofficially.
Yeah.
It's a family business, so naturally when you're growing up, your father drags you to work in the morning, I think I was, 8 or 9 years old. And this is when they originally first started the business off. So I used to just love coming here because he had all the latest gadgets, all the latest things. And for me, it was my playground. Coming into work, and then... I used to help out the staff, for a young kid to come and help people and do stuff, to the tills, etc. It was great. So... unofficially from the age of 9, but what my father said to me, he said, look son, we'd love for you to come and join the family business. If you want to work outside, you're more than welcome to work outside, but he said, if you're going to come and work in the family business, I want a degree from you, from a proper university and a proper degree. He said that, he said, look, if you want to come on and you want to take on responsibility, I want a proper degree, because they work very hard. Our parents did, they used to work 12, 13 hours a day.
Yeah.
So naturally he had, aspirations for me as well. He's worked hard. He wants to see some results for the fruit of his labor. So he said, look, I want a degree from you, and then you can come and join the family business. So the idea was that, once I get the degree, you work elsewhere for a couple of years, get the experience outside. But it was such that business was really growing at a rapid pace. And as soon as I literally graduated, my father said, you must come and join the family business immediately, which I did. And I think that's the best thing I ever did.
What degree was it?
I did a degree in business management with specialised in marketing.
Okay.
I didn't learn a thing. I think most importantly, I learned the stuff from here, from my dad.
I was going to say, because a lot of entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, 95% are probably against education. Not in a negative way. Especially if they know you want to get into business. They say education is like you said, you kind of learn more on the job. You kind of have to get started. So why do you think your dad asked you to kind of get a degree?
Well, you see, I think with education, there's two things. First thing, it gives you theoretical experience. It's not going to give you a practical experience.
Yeah.
Every business is different. So I think he wanted me to experience that and get that practical experience, but most importantly, I think what education gives you is a certain mindset.
Okay.
That's what education gives you, because you're in an environment where you're learning, you're applying that learning to your theoretical side of work. And I think education is, we never knocked education. My dad was always for education. From day one, he said you've got to be educated. And I think education gives you a very strong mindset. It gives you certain values. I think it teaches you to believe in yourself in certain ways, because even that is difficult. Sitting exams, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but even that, going through sitting an exam is an experience in itself. And I think education will always broaden your mind. So I would always say, for people who say, look, education is important, go and do practical work. Yes, practical work is good, because it gives you instant experience practically in the workplace.
Yeah.
But education goes hand in hand. I think it's very, very important. It teaches you to be more articulate. With business also, you write a lot of business emails, you write a lot, all this stuff you learn. So I would never say, look, I didn't learn anything at university. Everybody learns something at university. So theoretically, it gave me a stronger mind. I'm much more aware of how things work. You learn about the economy, you learn about this, and then you don't apply everything you learn in education, but there will be certain aspects, like for example, your accounts. No one's going to understand accounts if an accountant puts your accounts in front of you. But education teaches you that. Like, what is this?
Do you reckon you learned more from your dad?
100%. 100%. He was my mentor.
Yeah.
He was the one that I understood how business actually works. Seeing him work hard from a very, very young age. We didn't know what he was doing, but we knew he was doing very, very well. But until, you come in and you're literally thrown in the lion's den, you're thinking, okay, this is what it's all about. Now I know why he's achieved and how he's achieved it. There's always a secret behind somebody's success. And for the successor to pass that information on is invaluable. That's the best mentor you could ever have is your father, and he's exceptionally one who's done so well in his business.
So your dad, was a successful businessman, to say the least. He's achieved a lot. So what was it like growing up, and especially having that father figure such as your dad? What was it like growing up with him? And
I would say that my father was the only person I was very, very scared of.
Okay.
He were, from a young age, he was very strict with us.
Okay.
He would always, go to sleep on time, and you've got to do education, you've got to do Quran, you've got to do this. And he was, to a certain degree, quite regimental. But not a strict father. He was a father who would sit and talk to you.
Okay.
We would talk about worldly things. So he'd always get us involved in conversations. He was the kind of person who would sit with elder people, sit with younger people, and people enjoyed his conversations. But growing up, we didn't see him much because business was being established. I'm talking early 80s. And it was hard work. Business was great in them days. So literally he was working long hours. So we really saw him in the weekdays, weekends. He would make sure that he spent time with us. And gradually as we grew up, he'd spend more time with us, and he's constantly guiding us. Sometimes we think, no, Dad, I don't think this is not right. But, fast forward 5-6 years and think, God, he was so wise in guiding us in the way that he did.
Yeah.
Because when you're young, you're ambitious, you want to do this and you want to do that. And, no one's going to stop you, but your dad's stopping you there. No, son, slow down. You got to do like this. So that was great. If you go back to all those years and thinking, yeah, I'm so glad that he brought us up the way he did. So now I apply those same things to my children.
Okay.
Sometimes they turn around and say, "Oh, Dad's too strict. He's making us do this club, make us do that club." But it's for their own betterment, really. So I don't regret anything that my father taught us, or the way that he taught us. I think that's very important. I think it gives you a certain amount of grounding as well, and it makes you a stronger person. I think overall, to have some sort of, not I wouldn't say a regimental person, but someone who has some control of you as you're growing up. As a mentor, you look up to him, and I think it's important to have a role model in your life.
Yeah.
At the time, I probably didn't think he was my role model, but looking back now, I am because of him today.
Yeah.
So having such a strong role model, I think it's profound effects on someone's life. So growing up with him was brilliant. And obviously when I went to college and university, and he always kept on top of us, surprise visits to university digs and all that kind of stuff. But that's just the way that he was, so
I like that.
And he was always like, as students, we all go out and we're all clubbing. And
imagine you look around, your dad's just standing there.
well, it's true, but he used to say to us, and you see, he's so wise. He used to say to me, "Look, make sure you call me every day at 9:30, 10 o'clock. that's the times you go out. So we're in the car. Yeah, Dad, we're all good. We're all fine.
I'm at home, just about to go to sleep.
But he knew what we like. And I think the most important thing that he trusted us.
Okay.
Because of the upbringing that he gave us, he knew the values he'd instilled in us, and they were quite strong values. So he knew that, you know, we're never going to let him down in that sort of respect. Family respect meant a lot to him. I mean, I remember my grandfather very, very well, a very stern man. He was an Air Force man.
Okay.
So he was very regimental. I remember how he was with my dad, extremely, extremely strict. But then they turned out okay. So similarly, I think being a little bit strict, but being, you know, they always say, you know, give her the golden spoon, but keep your eye on it like a lion. And that's the way he was. So alhamdulillah, I think we were very, very blessed to have the upbringing that we did and spend that quality time that we had with him. So I don't regret any of that.
No, mashallah. I think, you know, I definitely want to speak more about the influences that you'd had in your life, especially when it came to the business side of things and sort of. But before that, so, you know, like, so this is a family business, and, you know, was it a natural thing for you? Like, did you know from very early that you wanted to be involved in a family business, or was it something that you probably thought, I want to do my own thing? But then naturally you thought, you know what, I've got a good thing going on here. Why not just join the family business? Because I know sometimes, another thing that I want to also discuss is, you know, when working in a family type of business, it can be messy. It can get, even working with friends, it can get messy. So as you were growing up, was it a natural decision for you to think, you know what, this is my future anyway, and this is what I'm going to work towards? Or
You'll actually be quite surprised. I didn't want to come into the business.
Yeah, okay.
I wanted to be a pilot.
Oh, you're a pilot, okay.
And that's where my passion lies. I was in the air training corps for about 7 years, and flying was something that I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to initially be a commercial airline pilot. So that was the end goal. That's where I wanted to be. But unfortunately, my eyesight let me down. So when I did everything at the air training corps, when it came to my medical, my eyesight actually had let me down. But, you know, it didn't stop me. I thought I can do something. But what actually I was doing through college and university is, you know, we sold the latest gadgets. We sold everything, what everybody wanted. The kids thought, wow, this is these you know, in the tech was massive. It was coming up.
What year are we talking now?
So I'm talking when I was probably about 17 years old, 16, 17 now. So I'd been through the air training corps. So, you know, there was a lot of these keyrings coming out, all stuff, Walkmans and CD players.
And you had access to all of
it. And I had access to all that. So I was going into college. Actually, even in school, I was selling those noise-making key rings. So, you know, I was selling them at £2 or something like that, and it cost me 50 pence. So I was making money, but it all happened around college time. So at college time, I was bringing these CD, Walkmans, etc., and I was making like £300-400 a day in college. And my dad would come up. He said, how come you doing this? I said, well, you know, I'm selling them in college. And he actually said, look, well done. You know, I think that was a learning curve of, you know, buying and selling. And I wasn't getting stuff for free. My dad was invoicing me. So I was paying him, taking the stuff back, selling it. And he said, look, I'm not going to do a sale return. Whatever you take, you're buying that and you're going to sell this thing. And I think that taught me to be a pushy sort of, not so pushy, but made sure I saw my stock. I did it through university. All my university friends, you had jobs, you know, clothing stores, etc. And my dad was like, he said, you're going to university, you know, and you wouldn't believe he used to give me £30 a week to live on. I was in London.
Oh, right? Wow, okay.
I was in London. He said, look, that's what you're going to get. And he gave me a credit card. He goes, this credit card is for fuel there and fuel back, nothing else.
Okay.
I mean, he obviously paid towards my accommodation, etc. So I was buying and selling stuff at university. You know, I was making like £500-600 a week, which is a lot of money.
Yeah, of course.
You know, in the late 90s. So that's how I kind of survived through university, making all this money. And I think that's where the passion kind of, not so much, I think this the flame ignited that I actually enjoy this. I enjoy the trading side of business. This is what I want to do. So I kind of made my mind up at university, because actually I was going to go to university to do law.
Okay.
And just last minute thing, I don't know why I changed to business management. I did law for GCSE and law for A-levels, and I thought, maybe I've had enough of law, I need to try something different. So I did business, and I was making all this money at university for the next 4 years' time. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I had kind of had a foresight, okay, this is the end goal, this is where I want to go. But the idea was that as soon as I graduated, I was going to work outside another firm,
Okay.
just to get that experience, because
Yeah.
people say it's easy, join a family business and it's all made for you.
And it's made, yeah.
So obviously I said the business was flourishing at the time. We were actually thinking of expanding. So I was told to come into the business. And touching on your second point, you mentioned that, people say you come into family business, it's easy. You've got it made for you, generation of the work, you're just carrying on. I beg to differ. I think family business is one of the toughest things you're ever going to join. It was me, my father, his brother used to work for him. We had staff, about 20 odd staff here. And it wasn't easy, really, because naturally when you have family members involved, I'm talking extended family members, there's going to be a clash at some point. And it happens because, you have your own roles in businesses, and you have defined roles. And one's a buyer, and one's a seller, and someone's got to be on the shop floor. But when I initially joined, we were actually in this place. This is the original place where we started from.
Oh, so this
was the original place that we started.
For those that are watching, we're actually at Awan International in Birmingham. We're actually in one of the offices now, and so this is where
this is where it all started. In fact, no, there was one before this, but we were only there for 4 years. And like I said, the business was flourishing, and we had the opportunity to buy bigger premises, which we did. So when I graduated in '99, this is where I came to. I worked here with my dad, and my dad's desk used to be there, my desk there, I was secretary, my uncle. And then obviously we wanted to grow the business, so we actually bought a 35,000 square foot site, and we built a purpose-built warehouse. So coming back to the point that, people say family business is easy. Well, it was very difficult because, people, when they start working, they have a 9-to-5 job. In family business, no such thing as a 9-to-5 job. We could be here at 9 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes we leave here at 11 o'clock at night.
What would you say the most difficult thing is about, not business as a whole, but a family business, specifically a family-run business? What would you say probably the most difficult aspect of that is?
I think there's two things. The obvious one being that you've got to be prepared to work longer hours.
Okay.
Right. That's something that you've got to do if you want to be successful, and especially when you join a business that's already so successful.
Okay.
You've got to put your weight in.
So you think you'd probably just take it easy? It's really successful.
Well,
that's got everything sorted.
No,
but
you see, to a certain
just sit back, read
to a
the
certain degree,
rewards.
you're right, because we have seen a lot of family business out there, and the kids join in, and the Porsches come out, and the Ferraris come out, and they're working, and they're not really pulling their weight. Well, that's not joining a family business. You're just joining an empire which is already being run. What are you actually contributing to that?
What are you bringing to the table?
You have to bring something to the table, and my dad made sure that he wasn't going to make it easy for us. And I say this, and I think it's quite an important point, that when I first came into the business, I remember my first day, I came in a suit.
Okay.
My dad said, that's quite nice. It's going to look really good wearing sweeping a shop floor out there when you're in a suit. I thought he was joking, but he's actually serious. So he said,
how old were you at this point?
So, well, I was graduate, I was 21 then.
Okay.
He goes, I want you to start right from the bottom. I thought he was being serious. And he actually was. He said, you're going to start with the guys in the loading bay. You're going to offload the deliveries, right? And you're going to check everything, and I want you to work with them for a couple of months. And I'm thinking,
wow,
what's going on here? Does he really want me to do this? But
I'm bearing in mind that the business is doing very well.
Business is flourishing. Business is doing super well. And I said, okay, bit my tongue. I carried on. And then
how did that make you feel?
It's not an easy feeling. It's not an easy feeling. It's one of those where you've got to bite your tongue and say, okay, I'll have to do this now. And I don't want to say I felt belittled in any sort of way, because I've always been working my staff.
Okay.
And I knew my staff, and I treated them as my uncles when I was growing up, because some of the staff we had here for 10, 15 years.
Okay.
So I'd always call them Baijan, I'd always call them uncle. That's one thing, we were always taught to respect your elders. So I never thought I was bigger than any of them. But I thought, okay, I've graduated now. Surely I should be...
Where's my office?
Exactly. So anyway, I did the loading bay, and then from the loading bay I was put on the tills, and I've been to work for some time. And then he got me involved with the buying side of things. So I was doing some buying as well. Naturally getting to know the customers. And slowly over the years, I slowly crawled my way into the office. But looking back, I think that's the best thing that he ever did. And the reason I say that, because I got to know my dad's business from the right from the bottom all the way up. I knew everything from the business. I knew what was going on outside there. I knew how the deals were working. I knew my customers. I knew my suppliers. If you brought me in here, I wouldn't know what's going on out there or what these guys do. And it's hard work. So I think that's the best experience that he ever given me. And I would never, ever regret that. If my kids want to come to business, I would do the same to them. And I would tell every businesses who want their children to come into family business, you've got to teach them business from the bottom. It's easy coming and sitting in an office. You're never going to appreciate it. Unless you know the business right from the bottom, that's the only time you're going to appreciate the business and appreciate the success of the business.
That reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen it, it reminds me of a program called, I think it's Undercover Boss.
Yeah.
Where sort of the CEOs or the owners come and they kind of join, whether it's like a burger place, and half of them don't know how to flip a burger and this, that. Some of them do, obviously, but I remember I came across one and he had no idea how his own business was running, what the pain points were. And I'm thinking, because you're so high up, you have no idea what's actually happening from the ground. And I think in any type of business, it's important, just as you said, to kind
100%. I think there's nothing wrong with getting your hands dirty.
Yeah.
It's your business.
It's a level of humility as well, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. But there's nothing wrong with getting your hands dirty at all. I think it's important because if you want your business to succeed, you've got to know everything about your business. Business is not just about buying and selling. Business is about everything, the accountability side of things. You've got to make sure the accounts are right. You've got to deal with HMRC. You've got to deal with advertising. You've got to deal with suppliers. You've got to deal with your customers. You've got to know your customers, because customer's king. My customer is my king. I don't know what the market is doing out there until I get feedback from my customers. So having that rapport with my customers, knowing what's selling out there, what's doing out there, I can then use my contacts, get these products in.
Yeah.
Using all my contacts that I have and giving them at a much reasonable price. And that's how you grow a business. You've got to have an understanding of everything. You've got to understand your staff, how valuable the staff actually are. Just because the guys are floating a container out there for you doesn't mean he's less important than the guy who's sitting in your marketing department or the guy sitting on the CEO desk. Because they're all cogs in your business.
Yeah.
And if they don't work properly, your business is not going to work properly. So always know exactly what your staff are doing, what you expect them to be doing. It's never easy getting your hands dirty, but in this business, to understand the business, and it takes time, it takes experience to grow a business and be a successful business. So you've got to know every aspect about your business, and I think that's very, very important.
So we understand how. Do you enjoy it?
I love my business. This is something I've been growing up with. I love getting up in the morning. I know I've got to go and do business, because you see, in our line of businesses, it's a buzz getting deals done. It's a buzz doing bigger deals. It's a buzz dealing with big companies, and you can see a company grow, and then when it's grown into something substantial, you feel like you've achieved something. But yes, our fathers did a great amount of work. They built a great platform for us, but I think it's boring to be stagnant. You want to achieve more and more and more, and achieve more and more, and grow your business, because at the same time, if you're growing your business, you're employing more staff. You're feeding more people's homes. You're contributing to that. You're contributing to society to a certain degree. So there's all these other aspects that people don't think about, that when you're growing a business, you're actually in charge of a lot of different things.
I was going to say, mashallah, you guys are doing very well. And do you feel as if, because I know it can happen, and it's happened to people where they've reached a certain level of success and they kind of lose that motivation. So what kind of keeps you motivated then? Because obviously, from someone else's standard, you probably made it. You probably, you've achieved all their goals. So from their perspective, you could probably retire, sit back, and kind of. Because I remember I was listening to one of your dad's speeches that he done. I think it was one of the Pathway to Grow events, and I remember he was saying, if I really wanted to, I could sit back and retire, just because it's boring for him. He actually enjoys his work. He actually likes getting up. But he was mentioning about having a balance as well. So, in your instance, what keeps you going then? What gets you up in the morning? I know you like your business, but what is it about the business?
Well, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the buying and selling. I enjoy doing the deals. But what motivates me is, I remember my dad once even said, he said, look, why do people retire? And it's true, because when I look around, even youngsters now who have done extremely well in a very short space of time, we want to retire by the age of 50 or retire by the age of 60. Well, why do you want to retire for? If you've done exceptionally well, why would you want to retire when you can actually carry on doing what you're doing? or help other people in some sort of ways, inspire them, and share your success. I find a lot of people are very secretive. People have done very, very well. And I don't know why they are that way.
Secretive?
Yeah, secretive. They don't want to show how they become successful.
Okay.
They don't want to show the secrets of their success, which I think is, it's not a very nice thing. I think you should share your success, and you can guide people. I mean, I have people even walking in now, asking me, look, can you help us with this? I know you're a businessman. I'm never too busy to help people. I think you should be able to help people. You're in a position, you've seen success, you've been contributing towards the success of a family business or a business. But when you give back to these people and you help these people, I think that's more satisfying. And I think that's what motivates you, because people look up to you saying, oh, the guy's doing well, let's go and see him. And if you can help them in any sort of way, we are big contributors to the community. We've done community work. My grandfather did community work. My father did a lot of community work. And don't forget, these guys were working 15, 16 hours a day, and they still gave time to the community. And I always say this, and I say this in every video I've done, in every interview I've done. My dad always used to say to us, your name is very strong and you've got to live up to your name. Our name, Awan, means to help others.
Okay.
So if I don't live up to that, what's the point having my surname? So we always help people. We have an open door policy in here. People don't need to have an appointment with me to see us. That's my supplier, that's my people. Anybody who wants to see me, give me a call, come and see me. And if I can guide and help people, which I've been doing a lot over the last 2-3 years, we changed our business model around quite a bit, and which was actually very successful for us, the way we changed our model. So people saw that, they saw the products we were doing, people wanted to do the same products, how can we do this? Actually I do speak to a lot of youngsters, especially now. I'm not very old myself, but it's I like to pass on the knowledge, and I think if I can help contribute the person to see them succeed, and things like that really motivate me. My family motivate me. I like to see my kids knowing that I'm working hard, because if they see me work hard, naturally they will work hard. But it's a time where, yes, you work hard, but then you've got to work smart. The older generation worked damn hard, which is something they had to do, because they had to support their families back home, support the families over here. We don't have that issue anymore. Yes, we still support our mothers and we support our children, extended families, but I still want them to see that we're working hard, because I want them to do the same.
So I've seen this phrase going around a lot, especially to work smart, not hard. So what does that mean exactly? How would you say?
I wouldn't just say that. I think it's work hard but work smart. As well. You've got to work hard.
Yeah.
Nothing comes easy in life. Even now, I'm 47 now in the business, and I'm still working, 12, 13 hours a day at times. I still work hard, but we work smarter. We've got things in place now. Prior to this, let's say, for example, I would have deliveries coming here. We're offloading deliveries. Yeah. It takes a lot of time. Yeah. I got to have more staff. So then we give that work out. We have logistics warehouses now who do all that stuff for me. Saves me time, and it's actually making me more money, because now I don't have to have all the extra staff.
You can start focusing on other things,
and that's the thing. You can start focusing on other stuff, the community work that you're doing. You can focus on other deals. Post-COVID, things were very good, but now COVID has taught us a lot. How businesses are right now, and what the economy is right now. Now we've really got to, switch up gears. Now the time to be working hard and working even smarter now. Because the government's not there to help you. You've got to think, okay, now you've got to think, how are we going to do this and how are we going to do that? You've got to put practices in place. So I think that's quite important. But motivation comes from seeing my family work very, very hard over the years. And I just love my work. And I think if you enjoy what you do, you're naturally going to be motivated.
I agree. I think, like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, where, if you're enjoying what you're doing and you're successful at it, why are you looking forward to the day that you stop doing that?
No, but I'd even go to say, some people are in business, they're doing very well. And yes, at times, they become demotivated, they become a bit idle, I suppose. But there's a reason behind that.
Okay.
And that's when you have a chat with yourself. And I think it's what your mindset thinking, okay, there's a reason why I'm feeling this way. Let's change things around. There was a time for me, I would say about 5 years ago, when I was sitting here, and I've been a sports person all my life. I played cricket to quite a high standard. I was a golfer. I did many things. And then when we restarted the business back in 2013, we took a break and concentrated much on property.
Okay.
I was missing this. and I wanted to come back and do this again. So, you know, those, I was working very long hours. I started putting weight on. I thought, this is not me. I don't put weight on. I thought, I've got to do something now. This is not right. So then, you know, I started looking after and then it takes effect on your work as well.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel fit, you don't feel healthy. So I thought, I kind of realized what the problem was, but I addressed that issue. I had that chat to myself, and I thought, okay, this is the issue, because I put weight on. I've never been a 34-inch waist, and even that's starting fitting damn tight now. And I thought, now I've got to do something. So I started the gym, and I started working out 3-4 times a week, and I just started getting healthy again. I lost weight again. You get the confidence, you feel better. You know, you get up in the morning, feel a lot more healthier again. So I identified what the problem was, and that helped me work better again.
Yeah.
So you can identify the issues, but I think people become idle. They become, something's not right. There's always somebody else to blame. Well, no. If it's your business, the actual blame, you got to blame yourself. That it's your fault that this is happening. Have a chat with yourself. Strengthen your mindset, because there's nothing wrong in having to talk to yourself now and again, because we get busy doing other things. And my dad always say this. He said, look, if you think positive things will always happen. Now, you get some people who are always very negative. Oh, but what if this happens? What if that happens?
Yeah.
Forget that. Let's think about the positivity side of things.
It's like, if you're going to look for a reason why it's not going to work out, you're always going to find one. Like, there's always going to be reasons.
But don't look for those reasons.
But then
look for reasons. So look for other stuff that help you increase your business or grow your business. Forget the negative. Let's throw them to one side. Yeah, negatives are going to happen. But if you're a positive thinking person, you will know, okay, I can address this issue. Because I know I can. My mind's telling me I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, we have issues at work. Yes, we do. And people take the troubles at home. And when you have an impact in your business, then your troubles start at home as well. You know, people start shouting at the kids. I see it happening now. They take the troubles home. They take the work home. They're shouting at the kids. And they're having a good relationship with their wife. Things are falling apart. My dad always taught me, said, when you lock that door, you forget about business. You forget about everything.
Okay.
Because you go back time. That's your family time now. You don't take any troubles home with you.
That's hard to do though, isn't it? Because, you know, when you're running a business, you know, they always say in business you're always on. There's no sort of a 9 to 5. You know, one of the benefits of working a 9 to 5 is 5 o'clock hits, you literally close your laptop, whatever it is, leave the office. You don't have to think about work a lot of the time anyway. Whereas business is more like you're dreaming about it, you're at home, you're checking emails, you're on your phone. And you're right, like it can affect family time because you're not actually present.
But I think then it's about time management, isn't it?
Okay.
You have set hours, like we open at 10 o'clock. I know I'm supposed to finish 6:30. So I've got to manage my time within that. So I think time management is key. Manage your time properly. Be productive within the hours that you're working. And if you can manage that time, you can master that, which a lot of people don't because they're not organized. Yeah. And I've always been taught, always be organized. Your paperwork should be organized. Everything should be systematic so you know exactly what to do. If you're organized and you've got a time management, and a lot of people don't even think about time, to them it's nothing. Yeah. But time management is key because there's, like I said, there's so many elements in business and you've got to look after everything. Like, for example, I've got to run this consumer electronics warehouse. I've got to look after my properties. How many hours in the day are there? So now I've got to prioritize my time. Okay, I've got to give time to this and I give time to that. So then I don't have too much trouble at home because I manage my business. I manage my time. I manage how I'm going to do my hours. I manage what days I'm going to give time to this. Yeah, occasionally, you know, you have a setback and you think, oh God, and you're thinking about stuff at home. But a very rare occasion.
Do you have any down days?
I think everybody has down days. You wouldn't be normally human if you don't have down days.
So what do you do on your down day? Like, because, you know, I know you mentioned that you go to the gym and you're very active in sports, cricket and golf and stuff like that. And, you know, when you talk about this, I'm thinking about people's mental health. You know, mental health is a big thing. Absolutely. Now, and that's one of the things that I like to talk about in the podcast. Do you feel as if, I know with business, because it's such a demanding sort of role, especially if you're at the top and you're kind of having to look after a lot of different things, what are the few things that you kind of do? Is there anything that you do that kind of helps you to kind of prioritize your mental health in any way?
100%. I think mental health is great thing to think about the whole time. People don't even think about their mental health, and this is when they burn out. Since COVID has happened, we as a family went through quite a traumatic time. It had effect on my mental health. I had literally lost 6 kilos of weight in 2 weeks. And I remember my wife coming to me, having that chat to me and say, you need to sort yourself out because I can see that's affecting you. Obviously, we'll talk about a bit more later on about my father passing away during COVID. And that's one of those things that your body naturally goes into a shock, causes you mental health, because you become a state of shock to a certain degree.
We can talk about it now. Like, you know, we're
Sure
on the topic. You know, so your dad, as you mentioned, had passed away. You know, may Allah grant him Jannah.
sure
You know, I can understand. You know, my mother actually passed away due to COVID as well, and you know, so to some extent, I can obviously relate.
Yeah, you can relate to it,
and you know, very difficult. I can imagine. So, you said your mental health was affected by that. So, can we talk a little bit about that? So,
we can. You see, it was quite tragic the way he'd passed away. It was in COVID, the first wave of COVID. When COVID was announced in March, my father passed away on April the 8th. So he got the...
So in the first
lockdown. So don't forget, me and my dad, we've worked together for the last 23 years. Share the same office. That's his desk right there.
And bear in mind, your dad's healthy at this point.
Fit and healthy. He was one guy who'd watch what he used to eat every morning. Guaranteed it could be gale force winds out there. My dad's cycling 10 miles every morning. He swam for 10 years. Played golf 3-4 times a week as well, and he always lectured people about their health. When he used to see people who were a bit obese, he said, look after yourself, eat the right foods, eat the right fruits, you know, have a balanced life, do business but look after yourself, which is very, very important. So for someone like that to contract the virus and pass away, you know, he was 67 years old. Being the person that he was, we thought, you know, he'll live to a long life, but you know, God had other plans. And to go in such a quick way, it took a real big effect on me, because now the roof that I had over my head was gone. We managed this business together, so I had a lot of responsibility in the management side of the business. I knew everything fell on me now. You know, I had to look after my mom, I have to look after my wife, my kids, and it was all my responsibility. You know, and it has an effect on you. Your body goes into a state of shock. Like I said, I lost 6 kilos in 2 weeks. And I knew something wasn't right, because I'm not the type of person to lose weight that fast. You know, I was thinking about my dad the whole time. How am I going to do this? You question yourself. You question your abilities.
Okay.
And you think, well, why am I questioning my abilities? You know, my wife had to talk to me.
You question your abilities?
How am I going to do this? How am I going to sort of do this without my dad being here now?
Because this is like the first time you're on your own now.
I'm on my own, completely on my own now. And then you sit back, like I said, you have a chat to yourself. But you do know everything, you know. Your dad's naturally ingrained that in you for the last 22 years. You spend all that time with him. He's been teaching you over the years, because eventually it always happens.
Yeah,
you know, you lose your parents. It's one of those things. But no one's ever ready for that to happen.
You're never going to prepare yourself.
No, you're never going to prepare. But you know,
we all got to go one day. But we always, you know, we kind of lose that.
You can never prepare yourself for that. But I think faith is something that got me through that. My faith in Allah. My faith is very strong. That guided me. And it's the first time we've ever closed. We didn't close during lockdown because we were an essential supply of sanitizer at the time. So we could remain open. But when my dad passed away, we actually closed for 7 days. We did his funeral. And the day after the funeral, I said, look, I've got to take responsibility now. I've got to stand up and I've got to get back into the office. We've got so much business pending out there. So I made that step of coming out. I'm very good friends with my PT, we have great chats together about life and about mental health, etc. And he said, look, I'm going to get you back in. We need to sort it. And so I got back in the gym. And the gym was always there. Gym was been there for the last 5 years. But you see, the way I structured the gym as well, you know, sometimes it's difficult working 8-9 hours a day. Your body needs a bit of rest as well. So I purposely used to have my training session at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So between 4 and 5, I knew I'm at the gym.
Okay.
So I go there, you de-stress.
And
you come back, and I kid you not, you could work another 6 hours. Because you refresh your mind.
It's amazing, isn't it?
You've got away from that. So then, obviously, the lockdown closed all the gyms down, and you know, the whole country was a mess. You didn't know where you were, and then I had to pick up a lot of pieces in the business. But I had that chat with myself, and I said, look, I've got to go up and do this. It's all on my head now, and there's no way that I'm going to fail my dad. I can't do that. If I fail my dad, then I will class myself as the biggest failure, and I didn't want to let him down.
Wow.
So I think that got me going. I looked at my children and said, like the way I looked at my dad, that, you know, I know he's there. We'll be okay. Now my kids will probably think. Now I understood that they're probably thinking the same about me. So I've got to get up and do for them. And naturally, other things that I do for the community as well, I got to stand up because he was quite a well-known man.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest fear I always had, and I don't have many fears, was letting him down. Even when he was alive, I didn't ever want to let him down. And that was probably one of the hardest things of joining the family business as well. That, okay, I'm in the business now.
Do you feel as if there was like added pressure, like you had to kind of fill his shoes?
100%.
Because, very successful, everyone looks up to you, and
100%.
very well known. And now you're in that position where it's on you now. Do you feel as if...
Yeah, it is. It's very pressurized because what the Asian community is like.
Yeah, exactly.
They do a lot of talking and everything. And worse is your own family. I'm not shy to admit that your own family are your biggest critics.
But this is the thing.
But that's good because you want to prove the critics wrong. That no, I can do this. See, there's two ways it's going to happen. You are going to fall over and blame everything in the world for your failures, or you're going to say no, I want to stand up, and I'm going to make people know that I can do this. And I think having that is not an easy thing that I'm going to take that on board because there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that as well. But I think everybody's scared of failure to a certain degree. But you've got to work damn harder. You've got to put things in place to make sure that you make it a success. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years.
So I can only imagine how hard it must have been because, like you said, you've always had your dad around. You've kind of, since you were 8-9 years old, you've always been around. You've always seen your dad working. Then you joined the business. So, it's always nice to have, you've had that father to kind of overlook everything that you're doing and everything. And for that to kind of get taken away from you just like that, there was no illnesses involved. And at that time, like, COVID was such a brand new thing. Like, no one knew what was going on.
No one knew it.
What had to kind of prevent this from happening. And so I can only imagine how hard it must have been.
It was tough, a man that was so well known, any other day, you would have seen 4,000 or 5,000 people at his funeral.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
We had 7 people. And I had to make sure that I had the right people there because he has some very, very close friends that he's known for the last 50, 60 years. And I made the decision that it's important to have his brothers there. So that was quite important. And, you got to prioritize everything as well. You put people's feelings to one side and you've got to do what you feel is right at the time. It was tough. I think it was even tougher that we couldn't meet people, because Mom contracted COVID as well at the same time. So when my father's passing away, I couldn't even tell my mom. It was literally through a window that I tell her that he's passed away. So that was tough. So I think those times probably really strengthened me because I think anybody would have just crumbled. Very easy to crumble. And I think if you crumble, then that's your biggest downfall. And you've got to realise and accept what's happened and step up. And that's not an easy thing to do unless you've been through it, because nobody prepares you for this. And we've seen a lot of people. I mean, I think a month before my dad's passed away, I went to a funeral of my friend's father. And I'm sitting in the mosque just looking at my friend. And I'm thinking, I wonder how he's coping. God forbid this ever happened to me. How would I cope? Because you're never going to be mentally prepared for this. Who knew 3 weeks later that I'm in the same position as my friend?
Yeah, I can definitely relate because, my mum passed away from COVID as well. And you'd never, you always hear about things that are going on in the news, so-and-so has passed away, so-and-so. But you never think it's going to happen to you or your family. And so for like, I think even till this day, I'm still processing what's happened because I feel as if it happened in such a manner where as soon as you sit down and think about it for a moment, you feel kind of, is this real? But then, like you said, faith is what gets me through. And
faith is a very vital part of my life. And if it wasn't for my faith, I don't think I would have got through what I did. And people used to say to me, when I had interviews with the BBC and ITV, and after the interview they said, you seem very, very strong. We can see you're deeply upset, but you feel like you're a very strong person. And I think I got that positivity from my dad. And I didn't ever want people to forget him. I wanted the legacy of that person to be alive. And, in our faith, they say you can do sadaqah for your dad and you could do all this stuff just to keep elevating their ranks in Jannah. But I wanted to keep his legacy alive. And although I was always under the shadows of my dad, he wanted us to have our own identity. He said, look, you've got to make your own name out there, build your profile. Don't live on your parents' profile, because I see a lot of kids with successful parents just living under their dad's name. Oh, he's such and such son. That's a good thing to have. There's nothing wrong with that.
I was going to say, because
if you've got a father who's done very, very well, and you're his son, like, I'm very proud of very proud of that I'm the son of my father. But you've got to create your own identity. You've got to be yourself. So about, I would say 9 years ago, he really pushed me to do a lot of community work. He's look, get involved with something. You know, he used to say, look, why do we want to accumulate all this wealth for? You've got to share your knowledge, give something back in the community. This is what actual life is all about.
Yeah.
You know, God is your provider, He's your rizq provider. But what's your sole purpose in life? Purpose in life is to help people. Like he did community work. So I got involved with a local initiative here in Birmingham who work with inner city children through the power of sport. And then you get to work with this charity. And I came on as a business advisor. And over the years, spending more time, I became the vice president, and I became the president of the organisation.
Okay.
It's a local initiative here called the Birmingham Youth Sports Academy, which I'm now the ambassador of, and I still strongly support the organisation. And it was working with inner city children, people with hardly any aspiration, you know, a lot of gun crime, a lot of crime rate, drugs, etc. So we were targeting these kids.
Is that part of the Nazir Foundation?
No. This is Birmingham Youth Sports Academy. So this is when I initially started doing my community work.
Okay.
So we had access to all these children, and we were giving them some sort of hope. We were offering them mentorship, education help, etc.
Okay.
And you know, we got to see real good success. And especially when I became president, I was working with a great team. And then, you know, we got the armed forces on board. We got a lot of the corporate banks involved. Really were impressed with the work that we were doing. And the organisation just grew from strength to strength. And I saw the difference that we were making in society. So I took that positive on, and when my father passed away, I thought, well, how can I keep his name alive? How can I keep his legacy alive? And believe it or not, it was only 2 weeks after he passed away that in my head I thought, well, I'm going to start a foundation under his name and do a lot of this work under his name. So I formed the Nazir Awan Foundation in 2020. So with that, as with the scope of carrying on doing what I'm already doing with the local community, but I did a lot of work in Pakistan, humanitarian work in Pakistan.
Okay.
We became partners with Shahid Afridi.
So
I did a lot of work with him for humanitarian work. But it's not all about humanitarian work. I see a lot of businesses here, very successful people. All they want to do is help the people in Pakistan. Well, that's important. I don't knock those people. I think it's fantastic. People in Pakistan need, you know, the humanitarian work. And not just Pakistan, all over the world. There's a lot of poverty over the world. So I see a lot of these organizations doing this. But what about this country? What about the children in this country? Because I worked in inner city children, I knew that there's a real big need for help with inner city children. You know, if we put all our interest abroad, we are going to lose a generation. This is the generation that my kids are growing into. So, you know, people are forgetting about this. So I thought, no, hang on, we need to tackle this right now.
What are the things that are you guys helping with?
So at the moment, what we're trying to do is I'm working. You see, I work alongside other charities and I work along other side organizations, and I give my help through the Nazir Awan Foundation. So what we're working on now is inner city children again. So because I've been involved with charity work so much, I got a lot of links within, you know, top corporate organizations who helped us out before.
Okay.
So now we see it's important for organizations to know their corporate responsibility of helping the community as well.
Okay.
Because I had these links, I said, look, this is what we're doing. We want to work with about 1,000 children, inner city children. We want to be able to provide them mentorship. We want to be able to provide them a pathway to work, a pathway to apprenticeship, get a hub for them, get them off the streets. I've got the armed forces involved to come and give them, you know, practical experience on assault courses, etc.
So these are like specific areas that you get?
Yeah, the inner city area. I'm talking about Alum Rock. I'm talking about Small Heath. I'm talking about Spark Hill, Spark Brook.
Okay.
The areas targeting where the minorities live, who are the majority in the areas, who have, unfortunately, very poor schools in the area. We see a lot of crime rate, we see a lot of drugs, we see a lot of knife crime, and it's actually within our own community. But, you know, we don't, we target every community. We will help the white community, the black community. We are here to help
just
society. And you see, the motto of our organization is striving to serve humanity.
Okay,
but that doesn't just mean poverty. Humanity's work here. We know people that can't even afford to eat right now, so we help support the food banks. We do a lot of work with food banks in Birmingham, and a lot of initiatives where we can be able to provide support or grant them some money. So we will help wherever we possibly can with helps needed. But the organization itself is, yes, we will do 20% work abroad, all over the world, but at the moment predominantly it's in Pakistan because of the floods which are happening. But the main focus is key work here and help the inner city kids, and I think that's very, very important. We've seen success over the last 8 years of helping these inner city kids, where we had a story with 2 young boys from a broken home. Mom was into drugs. So when these kids first joined the foundation, when they came in, they were just riot. These kids were very, very difficult to control. And so we took them under our wing and we supported them, we mentored them, gave them extra help, And over the years, we saw them develop friendships and getting into teamwork. So when they were 16, they'd left the organization. Then we saw them after about 4 years, and when they came to see us, we didn't recognize them. And he goes, "Wait, that's me. I won't give his name away." And I said, "Oh, wow, it's nice to see you." I said, "What have you done with yourself?" He said, "I was actually in Europe. I've become a doctor."
Oh, mashallah. Whoever you are, well done, man.
And that was very proud. I said, "Well, yeah, how's your little brother?" Your little brother was the naughtiest one. He says in the final year at Cambridge University.
Oh, mashallah.
So, you can have thousands of kids coming through the door, and you naturally can't help everybody. But even if you can help a small portion of them, even 2% of them, you've done your work. Because now those kids, because they've been through a tough time, they will naturally want to help other people as well, because they've seen the hard time. So now they become role models. So they're going to take on board what you've taught them and teach the kids.
Do you think, working with your foundation and sort of seeing what's going on, do you reckon this is one of the things that helps you kind of keep grounded? Because I can imagine, once you reach a certain level of success, you kind of, I've seen it before where you kind of lose touch with reality. You're kind of stuck in your own little bubble, surround yourself with certain type of people. Do you think things like this kind of...
I think it humbles you a lot. And I remember this because I remember my dad having a conversation with me about this. I was sitting here once and he said, "So this warehouse, you think is yours?"
Who is this?
My dad's talking to me. I said, "Yeah, it's ours." He goes, "The car you drive out there, is that yours?" Yeah. "The house you live in, is that yours?" I said, "Of course it is. We worked hard for it. We built it." He says, "Not yours." He says, "All you are is just a custodian of that." He said, "That's not yours. You're looking after it today. Tomorrow that's going to be somebody else's. God's given you this rizq. God has given you this for a specific reason. That's not just to be selfish and keep it to yourself." He goes, "It's there to distribute." And he says in the Quran, you give and Allah gives you more. It might not be monetary value, it might be in health, it might be giving me a couple more years, it might be success for my children, it could be many other things. And that really was an eye-opener. I thought, wow, what a powerful statement to make. He goes, life isn't about driving luxury cars and driving this. He goes, life is about serving your community. And Allah will provide you even more. And that just made me want to do more for society. Not just for self-reason that God will give me this and God will give me that. I actually feel it makes me sleep better at night time that I was able to help somebody. Okay, business is great. It's nice. You can earn millions of pounds of money and that's sitting in your bank and you're investing and you're doing this and that. But until you physically help somebody, you put that smile on somebody's face. That is priceless. And that's something that we've been taught from a very, very young age.
Do you think money changes people
100%.
Or can change people?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I've seen a lot of people change with money. I've seen a lot of people's attitude change with money. I've seen a lot of people's humbleness completely disappear, become selfish with their family, never give anything back into society. And I think those people are very unlucky people. They're very unhappy people. They might be happy with all these cars and everything, but how many people know these people? What legacy are they going to leave when they've gone? Well, how many people are going to remember them? They're not going to remember you for your cars. They're not going to remember what house you lived in, anything like that. They're going to remember, oh, he was a good person, he helped the community, he did a lot of this work. There's no point dying a rich man. It's always good to be dying as someone who's going to be remembered.
There's that famous quote, no one's going to remember all your sort of money, cars.
Well, that quote was from my dad.
Oh, was it?
And I've quoted that quote before.
What was that again?
The quote was, he said, no one's going to remember you for the cars that you drove, the business you had, or the house you lived in. They're only going to remember you, how did you help humanity?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they're going to remember you for.
I love that.
And that was my father's quote, and I quoted that in many other podcasts and other videos, and that quote's actually gone around quite a bit now.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud of that because it's so true. Because really, when you die, it's what aspirations you have. You want to be remembered for something, and something good and something positive, or you've had a positive impact about something. Because those people make du'as for you even when you're gone. I'm here because such and such person helped me. Even it might be something small. Let's say even an act of charity is a smile. You smile at somebody.
Smile sunnah, yeah.
It's sunnah to smile. And that can help someone. So I think it's very, very important. It's our duty as a Muslim, as a human being, to help people. And I always say that to a lot of people who are stuck in this rut. Oh, but we haven't got time. We're too busy. No, everybody's got time. We're all busy.
I just think, obviously, business owners, especially when they start out, obviously, they're all doing it for the money. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's important to kind of understand that, like you said, money can change people. You've seen it, I've seen it, where you have to kind of do things to kind of keep you humble, keep you grounded. And I think one of the things that sort of I know that can help a lot of people is faith. Even our religion tells us to, stay humble and sort of give to charity, give back. And I think the fact that you're doing charity work and all this stuff to the foundation is amazing because, have you not noticed, like with me, when I even do the slightest good deed of the day, whether it's helping an old woman cross the road, you feel amazing.
You feel amazing, don't you?
Like
100%.
You could have probably, brought a brand new car. Yeah, you're going to feel amazing. But the fact that you've just helped an elderly get on a bus or whatever it is, you're going to feel amazing for that rest of that day.
See, that's a piece that God's given you.
Yeah.
It's one of those unnoticed pieces.
Yeah.
But until you've done it, a good deed, is when you feel really good in yourself. Wow, I'm proud of that I did that today. It's fine. Sometimes, we do deal here and we made £2 million. You feel happy.
I'll be ecstatic. Right?
I'll be ecstatic. You feel happy because you've accomplished something. But that feeling is a different feeling altogether. That peace that you have in your heart.
No, I agree.
Because the money is different. That gives you a different kind of a buzz.
Yeah.
But helping somebody, the satisfaction, the coolness in your heart, and it's brought you close to God as well.
And it could be the smallest of things
100%,
as well. It could be the smallest of things where it's made you feel, wow, how is that simple little deed? Because you could have made someone's whole day. Even just as you said, smiling at someone, that could have changed that whole person's mood for that rest of the day. And that, it makes you feel a certain type.
Yeah, but that's a perception people have. People think that people with a lot of money are not happy people. But it depends what you do. And humbleness is a word that people use too easy.
Do you ever get worried about that though? Like, I've reached a certain level of success. Am I gonna lose myself? Are people gonna look at me a different way? Or
I don't look at it like that because
has it ever come across your mind where you probably?
Not really, because I give a lot back to the community. If it's not doing charity work, I sit on a lot of boards, with business boards. I'm an executive member of the Asian Birmingham Chamber of Commerce, so I do a lot of advisory thing there. I help along there. And it's, you see, there's always people out there who's going to hate on you. That's just natural part and parcel of life.
Shows you're doing something right.
I understand that. You can be, look, our own prophet, people hated on him. And he was the most perfect example of human. So you're going to get haters. But proving a hater wrong is the best thing. And if you carry on with your success and you carry on with what you're doing, it's only going to affect them more. Hate them. But you're going to smile. But you're going to be the one smiling at the end of it. And I think that's quite important. And like I said, I like to share my success. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm happy to people to discuss. I have people come up to me and say, how do you deal with all these big companies? You're dealing with Theopophetus and you're dealing with the range and you're dealing with Currys.
You're dealing with Theopophetus?
Yeah, well, we do a lot of business with his company.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we do. We do a lot of business with him. He buys a lot of stock from us. Then I do a lot with the range. I'm a vendor to Amazon. I'm a vendor to Groupon. Vendor to a lot of these high.
Would you ever be a dragon? If Dragon's Den are watching,
well, if they're there, I'm here, right? I'm here. I'm never going to pass up an opportunity. But listen, I think it's important, and I think it's like I said, I'm happy to share my success, my story, because it's not just my story. I'm sharing a story of two generations of success doesn't come easy. Nothing comes easy to you. People think, you join a family business, it's easy. Then I like to discuss how you happen. It's never easy. If you want it to succeed and you want to be part of that platform, then you've got to do certain things to be a pillar of that. And I think that's important and damn hard work.
Have you ever thought about or at any point in your life, did you ever think that I want to start my own business, like completely separate from Awan International?
Well,
has there been any interest in any other industry that you thought, because sometimes, like you said, people are probably you're living under your dad's name, this, that, and the other. Like I said, haters are always gonna hate. Has there been a point in life where you thought, you know what, I want to?
Well, we did have that, because the company that my dad formed in 1983 was quite a successful company.
Yeah.
And then because that was a family business, and his dad's brother's kids were growing up, and my dad kind of noticed, hang on, if we don't do something about this now, later on there can be issues, which I see a lot of family business happen now.
It's like you don't want to address it now, but it's the best time to address it.
So less time to. So we actually had a demerger then. So we had a lot of properties, we had the trading business. So what we did was we separated it. So my dad gave his brother an opportunity, a brother that he brought on as one of the employees, and he gave me a share. He said, okay, best thing we split now, and what do you want? And he said, look, I want the trading business. So we took all the properties.
Okay.
So we had the demerger in there anyway. So I was with Dad helping the properties, but like I said, I had a buzz for business. So I said, Dad, look, I really want to get back into business again.
Oh, okay.
So in 2013, we actually had this business, this premises rented out at the time. And in 2013, the tenants wanted to move to another premises. And I had that itch, didn't I? I thought, what about now? I said, I want to get back into it. He said, do you really want to do this? He said, look, I'm kind of enjoying life now. I've taken things a bit easy now. I'm still doing this. I'm still looking after properties. He said, do you want to do this? I said, yeah, I do. He goes, you know what? Let's do it. And when we were going to start it, this is 2013, so you can imagine business wasn't great then. And people coming up with this, they go, look, you're retired, man. Relax. Why do you want to do this again? You've been through, you've done it. You won the T-shirt.
And you want to go through it again?
Why do you want to go through this again? You have time to change now. And, businesses are starting, and businesses are failing everywhere. And we got the experience. And we're going to show you how to make it a success again. In the first year, we turned over just under £1 million. Right? We thought, okay.
Just under £1 million?
Just under £1 million. I thought, business is a bit tough, isn't it? It's not easy what it was. Next year we did, the following year we did 2. And we thought, it's not where I want it to be. I want to be doing really well.
So you guys are like big.
So then we started knocking the doors on the big. We were not afraid of knocking people's doors.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing I can say is no?
Yeah.
I've got a product. I know he bloody wants it.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to knock on his door, I remember we went to Theo's office, and he had all his buyers there, and he shouted at his buyers and this and that. We walked away with a 6-figure sum order with him on that day.
MashaAllah.
So, because we had the contacts, we had great credibility, still got great credibility in the market. I think credibility is very important in the market. And we started supplying. And then I changed my whole model around. I thought, I'm not going to rely on walking cash and carry trade anymore. This is where business is. Online is where the business is. Supplying the onliners, doing online yourself as well, supplying these big boys. Year 4, year 5, we're turning over £8-9 million.
MashaAllah.
More than we ever turned over, even in the bigger cash and carry that we had. And earning more money.
Is that due to the online presence?
Not just online, we met some very, very good suppliers at the time. And funny enough, we met them on a golf course. We just paired up with them on a golf course.
That's another thing. Business can happen anywhere.
It can happen anywhere. It's where God puts you. Where is our time to be there with these guys. And then, over a space of I think 3-4 years, we've done over £100 million worth of business with these guys. And we were exporting outside. We were supplying all the big boys. At one point, I was the largest independent distributor of Dyson. So
Dyson?
We were doing a lot of Dyson products. We were selling them into Amazon. I remember one day we sold about nearly 900 grand's worth of stock to Dyson in one day.
How much, sorry?
£900,000.
£900,000 of Dyson?
So, £900,000 worth of Dyson. We did one invoice we did to one of the online giants, £900,000 in one day. So, and that just thought, hang on, there's plenty of business to be done here. And then we got Groupon on board, and we're doing a lot of business with Groupon, supplying
So you're selling them to Groupon, you mean?
Yeah, we were buying Dyson. We were selling them
through Groupon.
And I shouldn't be giving this away, really. Right? But the thing is, but I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of that. It's part of our success. And then you see, companies like Dyson don't want to supply people like Amazon and Groupon because they're known to slash the products and the prices, and they ruin the market. But it's okay, if they're not doing it, I'll do it. We got the products, we can get the stock. I'm going to supply it to these guys. I was supplying Dyson to Robert Dyers, I was supplying it to the range, I was supplying it there. It was a great one, and then Mr. Dyson decided to take the plug off the UK market and no more Dyson stock. But then, you know, you improvise and you start because now you've done these deals. Now I can do now I can do deals and other stuff with them.
Yeah.
So the doors opened with us. We were able to do so much business with these guys, and then we carried on even when COVID happened. So prior to COVID, so what these guys would now do is, because we can get the stock, they would give me forecasted orders. So I'd get these forecasted orders ready for February, March, April, May. So they've got the orders done. I place my orders with my suppliers. COVID hits.
Okay.
Everything's gone lockdown. All the retail giants gone into lockdown. I'm thinking I'm sitting on 750 grand worth of stock here, which I've got to pay for in 45 days. My dad's just passed away. I've got to get back in the office. I've got £750,000 worth of stock. I've now got to shift this stock because my suppliers are going to be paid in 45 days. All the big boys are gone. They've closed down, cancelled. They haven't so much cancelled the orders, but they weren't honouring the orders because they closed. I thought, okay, I've got to do something here now. So I won't say the names because we're in an NDA with these guys. So I started applying to all the massive online retailers because they were open. Business was booming for them.
Yeah, it's mad how some businesses would be.
I said, listen, I've got these products. Have you got the product? I said, I've got the product. I shifted that product, everything, within, I think, 3 weeks. And got paid for it. And got paid more money than I was supposed to get paid. Because the demand was through the roof. Everybody was shopping online. So we did phenomenally well. So I paid the banks back in time as well.
That must have been pressure, though?
It's pressure because my dad's passed away. I've got to manage the properties, which is something I've got to learn because I never gave too much time to them. I've got staff to look after. You know, I've got all this stuff going on in my head. And I've got this to do as well. So, you know, God gives you strength in many ways.
And say business is easy, yeah?
I'm telling you, and you know, people say don't take pressure, but I always lived on that thing that don't take your pressures home, and I didn't. I went home and I made sure I spent time with my family, and tomorrow morning I've got some other issues to deal with. And then the sanitizer business came up. You probably remember every Tom, Dick and Harry when their warehouses were making sanitizers, £8-9 retail, right? I thought, I'm not having that. I got in touch with a local-based Welsh company, branded, very high branded name. I was going at 99p. I killed all these people doing it at 8.99. Because I thought. So
you were selling what other people were selling at
8.99 wholesale. I went out at 90. Well, depending on the size of the bottle, 99p, 150, 250, 350, 450.
You were just undercutting everyone.
So I wasn't so much undercutting them. I was actually getting angry at the price that
charging. Yeah, because they were paying. I remember now. Actually.
And I thought, you're trying to help. Save people's lives,
extorting prices,
and you're literally extorting people.
Yeah.
And the wash company were great; they was very supportive. And then, you know, I got into the NHS. I was supplying NHS. I was supplying Louis Vuitton. I was supplying all these major corporate organizations. And I thought, okay, this is a big market. Then I thought, okay, I've got to get some PPE now because PPE was growing. But I know that, you see, because I got so much involved with it, I know the quality standards. I knew where the UK government placing orders in a place like Turkey. I'd already done my homework. Turkey was not NHS standard, so I couldn't do everything. So then what I did was I got a couple of my suppliers who deal a lot with companies in China, started bringing a lot of nitrile gloves, and you know, we were doing like £200-300 worth of nitrile gloves every single year, £200,000 worth of gloves every single day. Distributors coming in, I'm supplying them, but working not on a great margin. I was making a margin, but I was trying to help the NHS.
You're trying to help,
and do what I can. And it was hard work. I mean, I was sometimes coming in at 6 o'clock in the morning, leaving here at 9 o'clock at night time just to get the orders, then leaving here, going to my logistics warehouses, make sure the deliveries are being offloaded, make sure they're checking those, they're going to the right places. So we were so busy at that time that my mind just kept me occupied.
Kept you occupied,
kept me occupied. But, you know, they were good days, but now you try to say you got to change ways now because times are tougher now. You know, with the rate of interest, what's happening with interest, supply chain issues now.
It's a bit crazy.
Huge supply chain issues.
Is it?
Massive, especially in the trade that we're in. During COVID, pre-COVID, a container price of $2,500 a container went up to $28,000. I mean, we don't make much margins. How am I going to put that big difference?
From $2,500 to $28,000.
$2,500 a container to $28,000 a container, because the demand was higher. They could, you know, the stuff coming out of China was stuff China completely shut down. I still can't travel to China. If I go there, I've got to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
But I was relying mainly on my importers because we stopped importing about back in 2017 because we predominantly went into branded stuff. But even now, branded stuff, like we used to do a lot of coffee machines, all the Lavazza coffee machines, and so we're relying on people importing it from China. From China, but then from Italy as well. But there were supply issues everywhere, so I thought, okay, that side of business is making it tough. Let me concentrate more on the sanitizer and on the PP, and there were good days, but now it's a whole different ball game. Now I've got to re-chain the business around again, structure my things.
But that's business though, isn't it?
But that's business.
It's that's what people don't understand. Like, it's not as easy as it may seem from the outside. There's always fires that you have to put out.
But then that's what they say, isn't it? That's what sets the men from the boys. They say it's when the tough gets going, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, don't they?
That's it. Yeah.
And you've got to improvise. I think improvise something is a lot of business don't do. They're just content in what they're doing. But they forget about they can improvise. There's so much other stuff that you can do. So you've got to be inventive. You've got to be productive, and you've got to be willing to improvise and make changes to your business. Don't stick to one business plan. That's another mistake people make. Oh, now we're going to a business plan. Well, get that business plan, throw it in the bin. If times change,
you have to change with it.
You've got to change with times. That's the way business is. We're not selling the same stuff that we used to sell 30 years ago. Why? Because times change. There's not a demand for videotapes anymore. We were the largest independent distributor for videotapes at the time. Markets changed, media's changed. You've got to change with times, and that's the only way that you're going to succeed in business.
And I think it's good because, like, not a lot of people can do that. And I think it's all about learning as you go in, learning the industries, building connections, networking, and you gotta have to move with the times. I think in business, when you stand still, you're moving backwards, really.
But this is the thing, though. This is when you've got to be involved with networking. Go out to network. Show people what you're all about. Get involved with committees. Get involved with organizations, because you never know who you're going to meet. And it's just a matter of, like I said, being there at the right time. You don't know who you can meet, and other opportunities open up. So forget retiring. There's going to be a lot more opportunities coming your way. And it depends on which opportunity you want to take. And this is why we always say, as a family business, never retire, because there's opportunities going to come. And why do you want to miss those opportunities? Keep growing your business, keep growing your brand.
I agree.
Because you're known for your business. People know you because of the business that you do, your dealings that you have with people. Because naturally you make friends through business. So having people skills and social skills is quite important. I think people are lacking that nowadays. Nowadays, more so, people have become very.
Do you think business is for everyone?
No, I don't think so. I've seen a lot of people thinking that business is easy, or we can do this. You've got to have a certain amount of business acumen and a certain gift, I reckon. You can work hard and succeed, but to be a successful entrepreneur, you've got to have a certain amount of business acumen. I think that is very important.
How does one get business acumen?
You have a mentor, a good business mentor. He will build your business acumen because you're learning from the best. Anything you learn from the best, you're going to have that. You could be an average footballer, and you go to one of the best football coaches in the world. He will ingrain all the top qualities, what you need to be a professional footballer or be the best that you possibly can. So to be the best, you've got to be with the best, or you've got to learn from the best. And I think that's quite important. I think sometimes people are too afraid to ask people. They need help because they think it's not right to ask people. You should always ask. Listen, even I need to help sometimes. I don't feel belittled about asking somebody for help. Say, mate, I've got this issue. What do you reckon I should do? So getting advice, looking at a mentor. I think mentors nowadays are very important. I was very fortunate to have my father as one. But I do mentor people nowadays as well. I talk to people. I help people wherever I can. If they need support, I do that. And just so they can be successful in their own right. They might not learn a lot from me. They might take one or two things away from me if they can. But if they can make them successful, it's important.
Yeah, I think what goes with that is like you got to be careful of who you surround yourself with as well.
Absolutely. But at the same time, surround yourself with everybody because that's part of being humble as well. Sit with people. Sit with all walks of life. Know what's going around you, because sometimes we get too mollycoddled in a certain society and we forget what's happening in that society. Then there's a clash. If you know your surroundings, nobody can touch you.
So you've been part of the family business for a number of years. Now you've got children, mashallah. Is that something that you want them to join you, or what? Is that something that is it a given? They're just going to join the family business, or?
Do you want my honest answer for that? So I've been asked this a couple of times, and I did a talk at an event, And I was dreading this question. I thought, someone's asked me this question. You've talked all about this. And the very last question was, would you have your kids join the family business? And I thought, no, I've just talked about family business now, how I joined and how I wanted to. But I always believe that you should let your kids follow their passion.
Okay.
I believe that you should let them go out and do what they want to do. Because if you let them do what they want, they will be the best at that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I could have my kids and say, no, you know, I know you're good at science and you're good at this, but no, come and join the family business.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think their heart's going to be in it.
Mm.
They've got their heart set on something else. Similarly, the experience I had.
Okay.
I was given the opportunity to do what I want. I wanted to be a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I started trading, I found out this is where my future is. So my daughter's now at university doing pharmacy.
Okay, mashallah.
My younger daughter, she's very strong in physics, so she wants to do something around physics. My third child, my boy, he's got his passion in cricket, so he's now signed up for counties. But I'm pushing him. I will do whatever I can to keep pushing him, pushing his dreams as much as I can, but not push him that he begins to hate the game. I always believe that you should encourage your children. Now my youngest son, he's got the entrepreneurial spirit in him.
Okay.
He loves coming here. He loves sitting at the desk.
Oh, he does?
He's only 8.
Okay.
Dad, what are you doing? What's that? What is that? What's selling line?
So
Dad, is it selling on Amazon? This is an 8-year-old kid. So, you know, I thought, hang on. Something's passed down to one of the kids at least. So, okay, you know. So then you kind of build an empire because you're not going to take everything away from you. You're going to pass it down to your children.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And, you know, by that time, their work ethics might be different. We might think we're smart. We're not smart. We're just going along with times.
We're going to be living in a different world.
Yeah, these kids now, millennials as we call them, they're on another planet.
Yeah.
You know, they'll make a computer that can fly. They're completely different people altogether. They're on different
planet. Their way
planet.
of thinking is different now.
Completely. But that's a good thing because that's what time...
The world's changing that way.
The world is changing. So,
embrace it.
They evolved, don't they? We're different times. So, listen, if anyone wants to join it, I will support them in anything. But I always believe, and if somebody's very passionate about their own thing, support your children. I think give your kids a lot of support. Spend time with your children, which I see a lot of parents don't do. Understand your kids as well. Because before you know it, the 18, 19-year-old kids, I can put my hand on heart and say, I've spent good quality time with my children. I understand them. We have a great understanding. I know what they need. I know what they want, so they can ask me for anything. And my dad was the same with them as well. You know, as they were growing up, he was engaging in different levels of conversation with them, but he always look, most importantly, be educated. Because tomorrow you don't know what can happen. And education is the only thing that you can stand up on your own 2 feet and get somewhere in life.
No,
but if I see a natural spark in them and they're good at business, hey, come on, no problem at all.
I think that's the right way to kind of go about it. I think, you know, if you definitely see that they've got a passion in something, you know, encourage it. Because
support it and encourage it. Whatever it is.
Passion takes you a long way, I think. I think even in business, I think if you're not passionate about what you do, because business is hard regardless of whatever you go into. Now, the only way you're going to overcome those obstacles is if you're passionate about it.
Well, that's one of my 5 key things. I think the passion is something that has to be there. If you're not going to be passionate about something, forget about it, you're not going to succeed because you're not putting your heart and soul into something that you're enjoying. So it's important to enjoy it. And if you're stuck in a situation, which a lot of people are, they're in a workplace, they're not happy about it. Well, like I said before, there's a reason why you're not happy. Know what that reason is.
And then
if you find it's not yours and your passion is somewhere and you've identified your passion, then follow that.
No, I agree.
That's very, very important. So I think that's key.
Right. Do you invest in businesses, like other businesses? As an investor, are you in any sort of investment in any crypto? What do you think about crypto, actually?
I have no faith in crypto. It's too volatile. I think probably in 20, 30 years' time. Well, actually, no, I'd say by 2030, everything's going to be digital.
Okay.
They're trying to make a cashless system anyway.
Cashless society,
I know that. I know people who've had bank accounts for 23 years have been shut down because there's cash being banked in the bank. They're making it more and more difficult. Not just for us, but even us businesses. I mean, sometimes, you know, we could be banking high volumes of cash. And I get inquiries from my bank, how come you're banking so much money? I'm a cash and carry. People pay me cash. You know, so you get the whole thing. So you know, you got these people sitting behind a desk who don't understand how business actually operate. And I think that's a downfall of a lot of these banks, that in the olden days, I wouldn't say that old, 20 years ago, your bank manager knew your business.
Yeah.
There was none of this tick box exercise. Now it's all a tick box exercise. They're sitting behind a desk. They don't know who you are. They don't know what your business does. They see your business is accumulating a lot of money. well, have a think about why am I banking cash? Learn my business.
If they understood your
If
business,
they understood the
it wouldn't
business, it wouldn't have been this. So now, you get finance out and you get things out. And it's a long, bloody procedure to getting a bloody finance. So before, I remember you could ring a bank manager. I bought a property for 750 grand. Is that okay? Yeah, Mr. Awan, no problem, done. So now you got to come back and go through one department or two departments. So they're making things very, very difficult for you right now. Extremely difficult. So coming back to crypto, no, I don't invest in any crypto. I don't believe in crypto. I try and understand crypto. I do understand it. I did a lot of... I invested in a lot of currency back in the day. You made money against the cable, dollar, pound. We did plenty of that. Again, it caused you a lot of sleepless nights. And if you cause you sleepless nights, is it worth it?
Is it worth it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Investing in other businesses, no, I don't invest in businesses. But if the right thing did come along, I would contemplate on that. Just the way the progression of things are working nowadays, I would help people wherever is necessary. But I concentrate on my own business. I don't do JVs with anybody. I don't believe in JVs. I think with JVs, certain JVs you can. I think it, especially with friends, I don't want to fall out with friends.
Can get sticky, innit?
It can get very sticky. I've seen people go into it and it comes out very messy.
You can lose relationships, friendships.
You can, and then it comes back to the point again, doesn't it? That sometimes you got to know when to break ties with family as well.
Yeah.
Because that can, you do really want to lose family over money. And
exactly.
Unfortunately, even family members now, it's all about money. There's no real love there for relationships anymore now. It's just greed.
It's just money.
And that's something I find very upsetting, that I see a lot of families breaking apart because of the level of greed that they have.
It happens everywhere.
All levels of society, all levels of family. So I try not to invest in other businesses. I'm happy with what I have. I'm happy that I can give time.
Do you invest in any watches?
I do. I like my watches. My watches and cars is a bit of my is a
okay.
bit of,
so what car? I think I've seen your car outside, but just for the viewers, what car? Is that?
So I've got a 911. I've always loved 911. This is my third one. This is my third 911. But I still remember my first Mark II Golf. That was
Mark II Golf's
proper mechanical car. I really enjoyed that car, and then. With time you come into progression, and then I remember when I had 4 children, I had to go to 4x4 for a short while, and it wasn't my cup of tea really. So then I bought another 4x4. I said to the wife, "What new car? What do you think of this?" She said, "I can drive this thing now." But she loves the 4x4s, and I can go back to my Porsche again. So no, listen, you've got to have your little things in life to enjoy, because you kind of. It shows that you're doing okay, and I think you got to treat yourself now and again. It's nice to have nice things in moderation.
What's your favorite car? What's your next car?
Well, I wouldn't say the next car is my favorite car, but I want to go for the new 911 Turbo S.
Okay, so you're a Porsche guy.
I am. Well, listen, I love my Ferraris.
Okay.
For me, it's not a practical car.
Okay.
It's not practical for me. And I think it's not safe to have these kind of things nowadays as well, with all the thing that's going on.
Did you see that video with that Bugatti in London? And
that's right. They tried to break his window.
Yeah.
So I'm friends with Lord Aleem. So we went to London, and he goes, "Okay, we stopped at the service." He said, "We're going to pick somebody up." And instead of picking somebody, he comes and drags me out on Porsche. He goes, "You're driving the Bugatti, and I'm driving the Porsche." I said,
have you drove the Bugatti?
I drove his Bugatti. I said, "I'm not driving it." He goes, "No, you're going to." I said, "I am not driving the Bugatti."
Why?
It's a £3 million car. You understand? So anyway, I said, "Okay, I'll drive the car." So I drove it for I think about 70, 80 miles on the motorway. I said, before we get to London, I'm not taking it to London. There's no chance in the world I'm taking that car to London. We pulled over cars. But listen, we all love our toys. I've always been a car man. My sons are passionate about cars as well.
Yeah.
So I've been quite fortunate to drive a lot of these high value cars and high performance vehicles, which I enjoy. And I think it's nice to treat yourself now and again. But I got to look at practicality side of things. I love my watches. I've always done. That's one thing I've always done from a very young age.
What's your favourite piece? Just for anyone that's watching that.
Do you know, actually, a lot of people talk about Patek Philippe's, and I love my Patek Philippe's, and I love the other watches, but I'm a humble guy. I love a Daytona.
Okay.
I love my Daytona. I think it's a lovely watch to wear. One of my favourite watches is Breitling as well. I've always been a very big fan of Breitlings as well. So I don't look at how expensive watch is. It's got to look good on you. So I'm wearing one right now.
Okay.
So
as long as it look good on you, you're.
Yeah, listen, it's something that's nice. I don't believe in people that spend £200,000 on watches. I think that's just ridiculous. I'd rather buy stock. I know I can turn that stock over 2-3 times and make more money.
Unless it's for an investment, because I know people do it for investment purposes, where it can go up in so much value.
Yeah, but they never sell them.
Yeah.
They get an investment. It's worth this much. I want to keep it.
Only if you sell
I
it.
very rarely see people selling them. They get these investments. Like people sit on gold. Well, you're sitting on this gold. What for?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you'll be sitting for 20 years. What have you done? It's like money sitting in the bank. There's no point.
Yeah.
So you know, you invest your money wisely. It's good to invest your money. I think that is important. Watches is I know people buy and sell watches. If I get the right price comes along, listen, like the number plate I have on my car.
Yeah, I've seen the number plate.
So we bought that in 1988 for £450 plus VAT.
Okay.
Which was a lot of money in them days for a private plate. I've been offered 90 grand for that plate.
Really?
I didn't sell it.
You didn't sell it?
You offer me 10 million for that plate and I won't sell it. It's too personal to me.
Okay. No, it's a really good number plate.
So it's what you value. Sometimes it's what you put on that value. So there's certain things that I have that I don't care what anybody says is priceless to me. Like my time as well. I'll give my time to everybody, but that's quite important as well. But you know, it's nice to have luxuries in life. Everybody likes them, but in moderation. It's like people say, oh, why don't you buy, you know, 8-9 bedroom house? What for?
Yeah, what for?
I got 5 kids. What do I want 13 rooms for? Who's gonna live in those other rooms?
I don't think I would want to have that.
No, you don't.
Too big because it feel like a house, not a home.
I think So this is my point.
Yeah.
Your house is got to be a home.
Yeah.
And it's got to be a practical house.
Yeah.
A nice house, it's nice. Everybody
everyone
loves nice
house,
things.
nice car and whatnot.
So I always say, look, in moderation. So I'm not the type to go and spend £800,000 on a car. That's just not me.
Okay.
Because I know I can use that money and buy stock.
Yeah,
sell that 3 times over, make more money on it.
I always think of things like that. You know, like if I've spent a certain amount of money, like, oh, that's a month's rent right there, man. Oh, I could have done this. I could have brought that. I could have done. You know what I mean? You always think. But
you see, a lot of these people I know who's sitting on this sort of money. They haven't really invested the money in other things like property, etc., or other investments or other businesses.
Yeah.
You know, they have good businesses making a lot of money, but haven't invested rightfully. So I think that's where my dad was very intelligent and very forward-thinking, that we invested a lot of money in property. Now, to buy that property probably now, you'd have to work for the next 30 years.
Do you think it's still wise for people to invest in property now?
Then you're never going to go wrong with bricks and mortar. That's something that's always very secure. Okay, sometimes property prices go up and down, but you know tomorrow.
Ultimately,
it's the best thing to invest in. Properties, it's a great thing to have, but it's unfortunate the way things are right now, the way the interest rates are, the way things happening now. You know, even now banks are pulling off first-time buyers. Yeah, I got my kids growing up. You know, you look at their kids, how are they going to buy properties? Yeah, because it's very difficult. So you know, it's a tough 10 years ahead. We're in recession now. Yeah. They don't say we're in recession. We've been in recession since April.
Yeah, I reckon we have. You can feel it.
But we're only going to know more about it now because winter periods come up. Your gas literacy, your energy prices gone up, food prices gone up. We're going to take a big hit now, and people are going to feel the pinch of it. You're going to see a lot of food banks opening up now. Yeah. We had plenty last year. It's going to be more. And now you've got the average Joe going to food banks. Yeah, the average Joe can't afford to feed himself.
Person, yeah, of course.
That's where you think it's such a shame now. But then you think, well, we're going to pack up and leave and go to another country. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Because every country you go to, it's the same situation now. It's a worldwide thing, and we're in it for the long run. So I tell everybody, hold on to your money. Be wise with your money. Be careful where you're investing your money. That's key. And just hold on to what you have. Because I tell you what, there's some real tough times coming ahead.
No, I agree. Yeah, so we're coming towards the end of the podcast now. If you could name me a fact about yourself that not many people know about.
So you left the hardest question right at the
end. It doesn't have to be business related. It could be about anything related to yourself.
Well, you see, I give a lot of my time within the business community to the community. I don't really bring too much about my family into the limelight as much, because you don't generally talk about family, but people know what I do. I sleep 4 hours a day. That's one thing I do. So I don't sleep very long. 4 to 5 hours maximum is what I sleep. A day. That's what I sleep. I have a very strict regime with my diet. I eat I'm very careful with what I eat. So it's facts I haven't really shared with anybody. So it's So that's one thing for some reason I don't need much sleep in my life.
So 4 to 5 hours.
4 to 5 hours is what I function on. I love driving, and I love driving.
Wake up and you love driving.
Yeah, I love, especially nighttime driving. You ask me to drive from here to Edinburgh tonight, I have no issues with that. I think. See, that's my me time. Me sitting in the car. This is when you see, because everybody needs time to just think and unwind. And me, when I'm driving, especially on the motorway at night time, is when I start ticking. I think about myself. I think about my future for my children. I think about what I want to do with my business. I think about my foundation. Because when you're here, I got people coming in the office, the phone's ringing, I've got other stuff going on. So really, how much time do we really give ourselves? We don't really give ourselves much time.
That's true, man. That's actually true.
And we neglect ourselves. And we say we're number one. But really, number one for us is our family immediately. But we are our number one.
You have to take care of yourself.
And you've got to look after. We touched a bit about mental health, but you're aware of what's going on. But quality time for yourself, I think that's important. And just think about what's going on in your life. Why certain incidents have happened in your life. How can you progress yourself? Because until you've had that chat with yourself, is the only time you're going to be aware that there's other things that you can do. So maybe that's one thing that people don't really know much about me is the time I give myself. And then, like I said, I don't sleep much, and I never dream. That's one thing I don't do. Is I don't dream.
You don't dream?
I don't dream.
Can you remember?
Unless I can't remember my dream. Listen,
I think everyone dreams, but a lot of the time you don't remember.
You don't remember. Right, I mean, I remember times like, I think just my dad. It took me I think 3 months for my dad to come into my dream. I don't dream that much. Maybe that's a good thing. Because sometimes you get.
Do you have nightmares?
No, I don't. What I see, that's probably the beauty is because I only sleep 4 to 5 hours a night. I have a damn good deep sleep. You understand? So I make a fresh in the morning.
5 hours.
It's a good hour sleep. But I make a conscious effort that I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's certain rituals that you have in the morning. So I do my namaz in the morning and make sure that's done. And I have to drop my kids to school in the morning. That half an hour, 45 minutes is my quality time with just me and my children. That's something that nothing can buy off me. Doesn't matter how tired I am. I could come back from London at 4 o'clock in the morning. I sleep those 2 hours. I'm going to drop my kids to school in the morning. And the other most important thing is we have dinner together at night time as a family.
Oh, that's nice.
So your phones are away. No one's allowed on their phones. We sit and we talk. So we're there for an hour. And I think giving your family time, understanding your family, is something which a lot of people neglect because of work pressure, because of other things. Like I said before, your kids have grown up, you don't know, there's no relationship with your children. I want to have a solid relationship with my children. So I try to give them those hour in the morning and the hour in the evening. In between, we spend a lot of time together, but I think that's very crucial for me. So that's one fact I probably haven't shared with a lot of people, but that's...
There you go, guys, we've got another exclusive. Okay, so... Final question of the day. What are your plans for the future? Whether it's business, yourself, anything?
Well, I know we touched on retirement. I don't see myself retiring. However, I see myself maybe winding down.
Okay.
Giving a bit more time to other stuff that I want to. I'm very passionate about my humanitarian work, about my charity work. I'd like to give a lot more time to that. I'd like to constantly give time to my children. I want to see where the business might go. Might have somebody managing the business. The business is still flourishing. It's still growing. Depends where that goes, but I want to be able to give a bit more time to myself, to my family, and to humanity. I think that's the end goal. Sure. And inshallah, when you pass away, it's you want to leave a lasting legacy as well. I think that's important because it's connected to your ancestors, and you want people to remember he was such a son of his and he was grandson of his, but tomorrow my kids have got to continue that, so I've got to leave a lasting legacy for my children, and for me that's very, very important, to leave a positive impact on society in this world. For me that's very, very important, and doing it within the limits of my faith.
MashaAllah. I wish you all the best anyway, man, and may Allah keep blessing.
No, thank you, Abdullah, and I think it's fantastic what you're doing. Honestly, this is the first time we met today.
No, it is actually the first time we met, and I think we've had a really good conversation.
We have,
today.
And I've seen a lot of people do a lot of podcasts, and I think it's a bit boring, but it's actually been very, very engaging, and I've really enjoyed it. I really have. No,
again, I know you're a busy man. I really appreciate you taking.
Never too busy to give time to people. It's one of my niece's birthdays, but this is more important because if I can help somebody, something and learn something from what I said today, that's more important to me.
No, again, it's been amazing. Thanks again for having you on.
Thank you very much.
Guys, until the next one, peace.